Beloved, when we speak of days upon the calendar, we are accustomed to regard them as ordinary markers of time. The slow passage of one rotation of the earth into another, a rhythm of morning and evening that to most seems common, repetitive, unremarkable. But there are days that are not merely dates, days that are not simply written in ink upon the page, but are inscribed upon eternity itself, days in which the veil between the temporal and the eternal thins, and one realizes that what is unfolding is not merely history, but destiny. October 3 is such a day. It is not set apart by the works of men nor by the customs of nations, but by the sovereign will of the Almighty, who has declared that on this day the test will come. The test that is not written on paper, nor administered by human examiners, but a test that pierces the heart and lays bare the soul. For on that day it is not your achievements that are weighed, not your wealth or influence, not your reputation before men, but the measure of your soul before God, the weight of your faith, the depth of your surrender, the purity of your love. October 3 is final test, not in the sense of conclusion of life itself, but as the revelation of what has truly taken root in the hidden chambers of the heart. And to stand in such a day requires a different preparation than any earthly trial, for one may cram for exams in schools, one may rehearse for speeches, one may polish skills for worldly pursuits, but the testing of God cannot be met by pretense or performance. It is the unveiling of what already is, the stripping away of illusions, the light shining into darkness to reveal whether there is faith that endures, or whether all was but show. Consider what it means that a day is chosen, a day marked out, not by your hand but by His. The world moves on unaware. October 3 appearing to most as an ordinary date, yet for those who are called to perceive it, it is a day when heaven bends close to earth and the searching gaze of God examines the soul. There is solemnity in such a thought, for it removes all vanity. No one can bribe such an examiner, no one can cheat such a test, no one can hide behind the pretense of masks. For the one who examines sees beyond appearances into the marrow of being. You may fool your neighbors, you may fool your friends, you may even fool yourself with endless self-deceptions, but when October 3 dawns, the fog of illusion is burned away, and the question is asked, what truth remains in you? And that question is not a question of external success, nor of how many applauded you, nor of whether men spoke well of you. It is the question of whether you clung to the eternal when all else was shaken, whether your heart was aligned with the truth when lies surrounded you, whether you loved the unseen more than the fleeting shadows of this world. Such a test is not arbitrary, nor is it cruel. For what is the purpose of testing but to reveal the genuineness of that which has been given? When a craftsman forges a blade, he places it in the fire not to destroy it, but to temper it, to test its strength, to reveal whether it will hold when struck. When a builder raises a house, storms will beat against it, not to mock the builder, but to reveal whether the foundation is strong. So it is with October 3. It is not a day intended to ruin, but to reveal. It is not a day to cast down, but to disclose whether you are built upon the rock or upon sand. And though such a day may terrify the complacent, it should bring comfort to those who have long labored in secret faithfulness, for their hidden sacrifices, their unseen prayers. Their quiet obedience will be brought into the light. That which men overlooked, God remembers. That which the world dismissed as weakness, heaven crowns as strength. October 3 is the final test, not because God delights in examinations, but because He delights in truth. And the day of testing separates the true from the false, the enduring from the superficial, the eternal from the temporary. Do not imagine, then, that this test will be like those devised by men. It will not be measured by how eloquently you spoke, how skillfully you impressed, how carefully you crafted your image. It will not inquire how many possessions you accumulated, how vast your influence stretched, how many clapped when you entered the room. The test will ask simpler, sterner, purer questions. Did you love when no one was watching? Did you believe when doubt pressed in like a suffocating weight? Did you remain faithful when every voice urged you to turn aside? Did you cling to the eternal when all that is passing glittered before your eyes? These are questions no human tribunal can ask, for they penetrate the depths of the soul, and only God can weigh them rightly. October 3 is final test, because on that day you cannot borrow the faith of another. You cannot lean on the righteousness of your neighbor. You cannot recite answers you memorized from a book. The only thing that speaks is what has truly been written upon your heart, whether grace has indeed transformed you, whether your trust is real, whether your hope is anchored beyond the veil of time. And do not think the test is merely about endurance in grand moments of trial, as though it were only martyrdom or great sacrifices that matter. No, the test will reveal the fabric of the ordinary as well, whether in the quiet patience of suffering, the unnoticed kindness offered to a stranger, the humility of admitting wrong, the courage of resisting temptation when no one was near to praise you. For if a soul is faithful in little, it will be faithful in much, and October 3 will show not the illusions of greatness, but the reality of character. It is not the noise of trumpets that weighs in eternity, but the secret faithfulness of the heart. That is why the day is so decisive, for it uncovers not the external achievements, but the internal reality. How strange it seems that one date could be appointed in this way, and yet all of history is full of such appointed days. The day when Noah entered the ark, the day when Abraham left his homeland, the day when Israel passed through the sea, the day when the fire fell upon Mount Carmel, the day when the veil of the temple was torn in two. Each was a day in which God set a test before his people, a day of decision, a day of unveiling. October 3 joins that great procession, not by human proclamation but by divine intention. And when it arrives it will reveal who you truly are, not who you pretended to be, not who others imagined you to be, but who you are before the eyes of him who sees all. Therefore, let no one treat lightly the thought of such a test. It is not meant to paralyze with fear, but to awaken with urgency. For time is given not for idleness but for preparation, not for endless distraction but for deepening roots. You cannot prepare on the day itself, for the day is only the revealing. The preparation is now, in the ordinary moments, in the quiet hours, in the unseen choices of faith and obedience. October 3 will simply disclose what has already been forged. And so the wise do not wait until the moment, but live even now as those who will be examined. The wise do not seek to impress men, but to be found faithful when heaven weighs their hearts. The wise do not accumulate treasures that rust and fade, but treasures that endure when the test comes. October 3 is final test, and the question for every soul is whether you are ready. Whether the foundations of your life are such that when the light shines, you will not shrink in shame, but stand in truth. When we hear of trials, the first response of the human heart is resistance, for no one in the natural man delights in suffering, no one longs for hardship, no one welcomes the fire. And yet the mystery of the divine economy is that the fire is not sent to destroy but to purify. The burden is not permitted to crush but to strengthen. The wound is not allowed to kill but to heal. What is a trial but the hand of the refiner bringing forth the gold from the dross, the careful heat applied to draw out the hidden beauty that could not otherwise be seen? Many imagine that faith is proved by words, by declarations, by songs sung in the company of others, but faith is never truly revealed until it passes through the flame. It is easy to declare trust when the skies are clear and the path is smooth, but when the night is heavy and the storm is relentless, then one learns whether the trust was genuine or an illusion. The refining fire is thus no accident, no random cruelty of fate, but the appointed tool of God to strip away all that is false, to melt away all pride, and to reveal what is real, indestructible, eternal. Consider the goldsmith as he bends over the crucible. He places the ore within the furnace, knowing that within that rough stone there lies hidden beauty, but it is imprisoned beneath layers of impurity. Only the fire can liberate it. As the heat rises, the dross floats to the surface, the worthless elements exposed, skimmed away until only the pure metal remains. And how does the goldsmith know the work is finished? Not by time, not by guess, but by looking into the molten surface until he sees his own reflection shining back. So too the soul placed into the furnace of trial is not abandoned. It is not forgotten, it is not consumed. It is watched by the Master, it is tended with care. It is kept in the flame only until the reflection of his likeness is visible. The fire is not arbitrary, it is measured, it is purposeful. It is love disguised as heat. And though the soul cries out in the midst of the flames, though it wonders if it can endure, the hand of the refiner never wavers, for he knows that without the furnace, the hidden treasure would never be revealed. It is pride that clings most fiercely until it is burned away. Pride whispers that one is strong enough without the help of heaven. Pride insists upon independence. Pride loves the admiration of others. Pride resists humility. Pride seeks to maintain control. But when the trial comes, pride falters, for no mask can endure the fire. No illusion survives the furnace. In trial one learns the limits of self. One sees how frail is human strength, how shallow is worldly wisdom, how empty is the applause of men. The proud heart, left untested, builds its towers of Babel, reaching ever upward in vain, until the storm comes and topples them all. But the humbled heart, purified in the furnace, finds its strength not in itself but in the eternal, and when the storm comes, it does not fall, for its roots are deep, not in the shifting sands of pride but in the solid rock that cannot be moved. Trials, then, are the mercy that prevents the soul from perishing in its illusions, the painful grace that breaks false strength so that true strength may be found. And here lies the paradox: what we fear most, when received with faith, becomes our greatest gift. The trial we prayed would pass us by becomes the very means by which we are transformed. The suffering we thought unbearable becomes the channel through which grace flows most deeply. The fire that seemed to destroy becomes the agent of purification. For who can deny that the greatest saints, the deepest souls, the ones whose lives bear the fragrance of eternity, are those who have walked through the valley of shadow, who have endured the furnace, who have been pressed by burdens beyond their strength. It is there that their pride was burned away, their faith deepened, their hope anchored not in this world, but in the one to come. And when they emerged, they did not shine with the glory of themselves, but with the glory of the one who brought them through. Think, too, of how trials reveal what cannot be shaken. The superficial falls away quickly. A man may say he loves his neighbor, but let adversity come, and only then is it clear whether his love endures. A woman may say she trusts God, but let her world collapse, and only then is it revealed whether her trust was rooted in truth or in convenience. Trials are the great unveilings, pulling back the curtain to show what lies beneath the surface. And if what lies beneath is genuine, then the fire only makes it stronger. Like steel hammered on the anvil, it grows harder, more resilient, more enduring. Like wine aged in the press, it grows richer, more fragrant, more potent. Faith that has never been tested is fragile, easily shattered, but faith that has endured the furnace is unbreakable, for it has learned not to rest in feelings or circumstances, but in the eternal word. Yet let us be honest, the fire is not pleasant. To speak of trials in lofty phrases is easy, to endure them is hard. The night feels long, the burden feels crushing, the loneliness feels unbearable. Tears fall, questions rise, and the soul cries out, "Why me? Why now? Why this?" And often no answer comes except the silent assurance that the refiner is near, that the furnace is not out of control, that the hand that holds you will not let go. It is in those moments that pride dies, for pride demands understanding. Pride insists on control, pride refuses surrender. But when pride dies, faith is born, for faith trusts even when it does not see. Faith believes even when it does not understand. Faith clings even when everything else is slipping away. And it is this faith that the trial seeks to reveal. The faith that is more precious than gold, the faith that endures when all else is burned away. Some may ask, if the fire is so painful, why not spare us altogether? Why not remove the trials? Why not grant a smooth path? Why not shield from every storm? But such a life, though comfortable, would be shallow. A tree grown in sheltered ground, never beaten by wind, may look strong, but its roots are weak, and the first true storm will topple it. A soldier never tested in battle may wear a uniform, but he lacks the courage forged by struggle. A soul never pressed by trial may speak of faith, but it is unproven, and when the final test comes, it will crumble. The fire, then, is mercy disguised as pain, for it prepares the soul for the greater trial, the ultimate unveiling, the day when all is revealed. Without the furnace, one would stand unready, fragile, deceived, untrue. But with the furnace, though the path is hard, the soul is made strong, the pride is burned away, and what remains is real. And do not think the refining fire is endless. The goldsmith does not keep the ore in the flame forever. He removes it at the precise moment when the work is done, when the dross is gone, when the reflection is seen. So too with the trials of the soul. They are measured, they are appointed, they are bounded. They last only as long as necessary, not one moment longer. And when the purpose is complete, the fire is quenched, the burden lifted, the night turned to dawn. Then the soul, though scarred, is beautiful though humbled, is strong though wounded, is healed. For the fire has done its work, the pride is gone, the faith is real, and the character shines with a glory not of this world. Therefore, let the soul not despise the fire, though it trembles at the heat. For the fire is not the end, but the means. The trial is not the goal, but the path. The refining is not to harm, but to heal. And when one emerges from the furnace, one does not boast of surviving, but marvels that grace has kept them, that mercy has sustained them, that faith has been made real. In that hour, one knows that the refining fire was love all along, fierce love, burning love, relentless love, determined not to let the soul remain in its impurities, but resolved to bring forth the gold, the beauty, the reflection of eternity. Such is the purpose of the refining fire, and though the world may not understand it, those who have passed through it know its truth, for they have seen themselves changed, humbled, purified, made new, and they would not trade the lessons of the furnace for all the comfort of an untested life. For in the fire they found reality, and reality is worth every flame. When we speak of endurance, many think of it as mere survival, the stubborn clinging on when all else is lost. The grim refusal to collapse though every muscle cries out for release. But endurance in the vision of eternity is not passive, not a grimacing hold on life until death claims it. It is an active strength, a living hope, a steady forward step in the midst of weariness, a shining testimony that even in darkness the light has not gone out. To endure is not simply to last, but to last with faith, to continue with hope, to remain steadfast with love even when the ground beneath trembles and the heavens above seem silent. This is why the promise attached to endurance is so great, for it is not given to the swift who run for a moment, nor to the strong who boast in their own might, but to the steadfast who, though battered, refuse to let go of the eternal. They are the ones to whom the crown is promised, the wreath not of laurel that withers, but of glory that never fades. The imagery of the crown is woven deep into the story of faith, for crowns are not given at the beginning, but at the end. Not for intentions, but for endurance. Not for enthusiasm that burns quickly and vanishes, but for perseverance that continues through the long night. The runner in the ancient stadium strained every sinew, not for the applause along the way, but for the prize at the finish. The soldier endured the long campaign, not for the fleeting pleasures of comfort, but for the honor of victory. So too the soul is called to endure, for the testing is not short, and the fire does not cease in an hour. But those who endure, those who refuse to let go even when strength is gone, discover that there is strength not of their own, a hidden power that sustains, a grace that carries. And when at last they cross the finish line, when at last they lay down their burdens, they do not receive merely rest but reward, not only relief but glory. The crown is given not as a trinket, but as the declaration that their faith was real, their hope was true, their endurance has borne witness to eternity. Yet how different is this crown from all the crowns of earth. For earthly crowns are made of gold that tarnishes, jewels that dull, honors that are forgotten with time. Kings wear them for a season, and then are buried without them. Victors of contests are praised for a day, and then fade into obscurity. But the crown promised to those who endure is incorruptible, unfading, eternal. It is not placed upon the head for display, but shines as the reflection of the life that was lived, the choices that were made, the faith that was kept. It is the outward sign of an inward reality, the testimony that in the midst of trial this soul endured, this soul remained. This soul conquered not by might but by faith. And such a crown is not heavy with pride, but light with joy, for it is not earned as a wage, but received as a gift from the hand of the one who sustained them all along. Consider what endurance means in the life of the faithful. It means rising when you have fallen again and again, refusing to surrender to despair. It means continuing to pray when heaven feels silent, continuing to hope when the evidence seems absent, continuing to love when hearts grow cold. It is easy to begin with zeal, but only endurance reveals the depth of faith. Many begin well, few finish well. Many declare loyalty in the day of triumph, few remain steadfast in the day of sorrow. Endurance is what separates the true from the false, the deep from the shallow, the eternal from the fleeting. And endurance is not built in a moment, but through long faithfulness, through the accumulation of choices day by day, through the refusal to turn aside though the path is hard. It is in endurance that the beauty of the soul is revealed, the strength of character shaped, the crown prepared. And how is it that endurance leads to victory? For the world measures victory in conquests, in applause, in recognition. But the victory of the faithful is not measured in outward triumphs, but in inward realities. Victory is when temptation does not conquer you, when despair does not silence you, when fear does not rule you. Victory is when love survives hatred, when faith survives doubt, when hope survives disappointment. Victory is not the absence of wounds, but the presence of scars that testify that though wounded, you did not give up. Victory is not that you never stumbled, but that you rose again and again until the race was finished. And this victory is crowned not because you were stronger, but because you leaned on the strength of the Eternal who never fails. The crown is thus both reward and testimony, a declaration not of your greatness but of His faithfulness in you, through you, sustaining you. There is also this endurance is not only for oneself, but for others. The one who endures becomes a beacon for those who are wary, a sign that it is possible to keep going, a witness that faith can last, that hope can survive. When others see you endure, they are strengthened. When others see you remain faithful, their wavering hearts find courage. Endurance multiplies, like a flame passed from torch to torch, until the whole race is run not in isolation but in company. And when the crown is given, it is not merely for the individual, but for the testimony borne to countless others who were inspired by that endurance. For no one endures alone, and no one is crowned alone, but the victory of one becomes the encouragement of many, and the faithfulness of one strengthens the faithfulness of all. It is important to remember that endurance is not glamorous. It does not shine in the eyes of the world. It is not celebrated in the headlines. It is not applauded by crowds. Endurance is quiet, hidden, often unnoticed. It is the long obedience in the same direction, the daily choice to remain, the nightly decision not to give up. It is often mocked as weakness, as foolishness, as stubbornness. But heaven sees differently. What the world dismisses as failure, heaven crowns as faithfulness. What the world overlooks as trivial, heaven records as eternal. The widow who continues to pray, the laborer who continues to work honestly, the parent who continues to love faithfully, the saint who continues to hope in silence. These are the ones who endure, and these are the ones to whom the crown belongs. For the crown is not given for earthly success, but for eternal steadfastness. And when the day of final testing comes, endurance will be the mark that matters most. For many will begin with zeal, many will speak loudly of their faith, many will profess loyalty when the cost is small. But when the fire burns, when the storm rages, when the test deepens, only those who endure will remain. and to them belongs the promise, the victory of endurance, the crown of life, the joy of hearing the words, "Well done." The world may never have praised them, but heaven does. The world may have thought them forgotten, but eternity remembers. The world may have mocked their persistence, but the King places upon their heads a crown that will never fade. This is the victory of endurance, and it is worth every step, every tear, every sacrifice, every scar. And though endurance feels heavy now, it will not be forever. For endurance leads somewhere. It leads to the end of the race, the close of the campaign, the final unveiling. And when that moment comes, when the weary feet finally cross the finish line, when the scarred hands finally release their burdens, when the tear-stained eyes finally see the glory, then endurance will be swallowed up in joy, and the crown will shine with a radiance no earthly gem can match. The struggle will seem small compared to the glory revealed, the night short compared to the eternal dawn, the pain momentary compared to the everlasting joy. And all will say it was worth it, every moment, every step, every sacrifice. For the crown of endurance is the crown of life itself. And there is no greater victory than to have endured, and to have been found faithful.